Hello, thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's great to see so many familiar faces and some new ones in the crowd. It is my pleasure to introduce you all into the space. My name is Katie Noble and I'm Robin's studio manager. Robin, who has devoted his life to shooting objects, as you all know, fell in love with still life in art school, and after working in London for 5 years, he moved to New York in 1999, becoming one of New York's top still life photographers. He frequently collaborates with international publications, brands, and creative directors to create photographic stories and commercial campaigns. His solo shows include A Love Letter 2 at Saturday's New York City in 2024, black and white photographs at Smith's Gallery in London, and Metal Flesh at the Studio Gallery in London. His group exhibitions include Sticks and Stones Bones in New York and Dossier's Secret Show in Los Angeles. Robin's published photographic projects include A Love Letter 2, the photographic work of Robin Broadbent, -16, and Marmalade. We also have Betil Dagdelen here speaking with Robin tonight. She is a textile artist and a designer of furniture. Ironically, she also moved to New York in the same year as Robin. They started working together over 20 years ago on commercial photography sets while Betil was set building. Since their meeting, she shifted her career to focus on her art, which uses unique improvisational methods to explore the possibilities and limits of woven and sculptural forms. Her work is included in the permanent collections of the Carnegie Museum of Art, the RISD Museum, and the Royal Commission for Al-Huda. Although their careers have gone in different directions, they still inspire each other as close friends. They collaborate as artists. Robin lends himself as a photographer, transforming Betil's sculptures and furniture into abstract forms. Tonight, we are celebrating Robin's most recent move into this studio, which was so monumental and inspired his new book, Celebrate. I was here through the whole journey of packing and unpacking and seeing the space open up into bright, vibrant colors, which was a catalyst for Robin. From the green floor to the orange curtain, all these colors and the space are clear influences on the images we see today. We hope this is the first of many gatherings in the space, and we're all excited to bring together a group of creative people for conversations about art. And with that, I will turn it over to Robin.
Thank you very much and welcome everyone. I'm going to hand it straight to Betil. Because she's the one who's wise and will know how to make me say things that maybe sound wise. That's my dream. So we did a rehearsal last night and actually early this afternoon, and it was really very good. I feel we may have peaked, and this evening may not be very good at all. But we can try.
I mean, we can try to stick to the script, but thank you all for being here. Thank you for celebrating Robin and his work and his kind of legacy. You're a legend.
Well, Dad,
Robin and I have known each other for many years. Like Katie mentioned, we worked together before I started concentrating on my own art. And but since then we've been collaborating on the shapes and the forms I do. I cannot think of a better person who can see shapes in a different way, and he just has this eye that I don't know anyone else worked with has. So, Robin, what are we celebrating here?
So, we're here I moved here a year ago, basically in July 31st last year, a traumatic day of 16 trucks and too much horrible stuff. And we moved here, and for a year has gone by really fast. I was working with, very lucky to have Landon here tonight, who actually was the architect I worked with on this project. And I was in a studio, I've been in 3 studios, this is my 3rd studio in New York. The first one was on Crosby Street, number 38, and that's where I moved to in 1999, which is a big, huge loft floor. And then I went to Varick Street, and Varick Street was, I had an amazing landlord and amazing people around me on Crosby Street, and Varick Street was much more of a big building with lots of offices, lots of studios. And after about 12 years, my lease was coming up, but also I was a little bit over it. And I kind of loved going there 12 years previously, but then after a while, it seemed very contained and very suffocating, mainly because I had so much garbage everywhere. But I then thought I needed something different, and my lease kind of came to the end, and I wanted to do something different with my life and how to approach being creative and what I was doing with photography and how I was relating and interacting with other creative people. So I gave up grey drabness and tried to become interesting. And like a traditional still life studio, and I shoot with hot lights with tungsten, so the exposures are very long, and also you can't have daylight anywhere. So everything's kind of blacked out, everything's kind of black, everything's grey, floors are, it was like that, and I felt times had to change. So I gave a brief to Landon and said I want, and who I've known for a while, so it wasn't like completely strange, but it was like I wanted to have a sort of a Eames workshop combined with a Barbarella film set. So I thought the Barbarella would give us a little bit of excitement and life and texture and colour. And that's what you kind of see in all the curtains. I'm already talking too much already. But you can see that in all the curtains around here, that the oranges, the blues, the pinks, the green floor. And what I like about this space is you come in and you have a space to actually relax in and enjoy, the green sofas and everything else. So that's what we're here to celebrate, really. It's actually the move to here, and then out of that came this first project, which I've just published.
Is celebrating a part of your practice, or did you learn it with time?
Celebrating is not really what I do. That seems unnecessary. I've always enjoyed things, but there's something about, I don't know, I got to a certain part of my life, or I've done so many things in my life that reached a sort of a peak or pinnacle, but I wanted to have conversations. I felt that the photography industry is really very insular, especially doing still life, and you don't really meet each other, you don't really talk to each other, and I think times have to change. I think the industry's changed a lot recently, and I think it's nice to spend time with other photographers who do, other works too. So I think it was time to, it's just, I don't know where it happens, whether it's something that happened in my system or something. I wanted to just enjoy colour and day by day more than I was doing before. And so that's why that's what this is all about, really. I have to say thank you to Katie and Seth and all the people who helped move, because they've had a miserable time, but survived it very well.
Let's take it back for a minute. So you moved to New York in '99, but when did you take your first picture? What was the process like? How did you decide to move to New York? Why New York? And what was the first picture you took?
I was going to go to medical school, and I failed to get there. But my mum and dad felt sorry for me, and as I was 18, they said you should have like a significant gift, as we do in England. So I got a camera, and I'd never touched a camera until I was 18. And then I had a camera, and I had a friend who had a dark room, and I started shooting black and white, and that's kind of how it was. And I went to art college, and then worked in London, and I came to visit New York randomly about 1997, 98, and just fell in love with it. And the girlfriend I had at the time wanted to come too. In fact, she stuck in ahead of me, to be honest, actually. So she came. I really liked New York. I came to New York for the first time, and I just couldn't believe the art galleries and the spaces and the photography galleries, and it was just such a, coming from London where it's like with 1.5 galleries, coming to New York back then was like amazing. So
Was art a part of your life before that, or not at all?
I was a little disgruntled shooting still life. So I think there was a phase around 95, 67 where shooting objects beautifully kind of vanished a little bit in London. And I spent some time wondering what I enjoy and what I like about being a photographer. And it was coming down to shooting 810, but really crafting and really making beautiful pictures. And a lot of the stuff that was being shot in London at the time, I'm sure everywhere else as well, was that they were just illuminating things. And that's not really how my brain or my eyes worked. And I thought, oh, in New York there are these great people like Irving Penn and Richard Avedon and big names. You've got Harper's Bazaar and Fabian Barron and all that stuff. So New York must be great. So that's why I kind of came to New York, really, I think, to reinvigorate my life of what I was doing, what I was shooting. And I kind of loved the atmosphere, I loved it.
So I've seen all 3 studios of Robin. One was on Crosby Street, a block down that way, then he was on Barrett Street, but this space really strikes me the most. And as much as he has used color in his work before, this is extra colorful. I mean, this is like, usually he deals with light, shadows, tones, and yes, of course, the perfume bottles and stuff he shoots has some color in it, but it's just not his go-to. As he said it yesterday, he finds it easy way out of an image. So,
well, we discussed that a bit more, I think.
So, space is really important for me as a designer, and so I want to talk about space a little bit and what you created here. First and foremost, this stage. What made you think that you should build a stage? What do you think that adds to the work?
I think there's a whole lot of stories about the stage, which we'll just keep between Landon and myself. But I think ultimately it was a way of defining the shooting space. And I think that's what it was about, it was creating a space where we would put the sets, have the stands, and then we could use the curtains to close it off. So that's what we were trying to do then. And it's kind of nice, because when you close it all in, it's kind of like, it's pretty nice, pretty happy.
I mean, there's something in furniture world when, like, back in Europe, we use furniture much lower than Americans do up here. Here I am, I'm like 39. Anyway, so do you think this space released you from certain things that you were holding on to with your previous spaces?
I think it really did. I think something happened to me. It's like,
Tell us.
I don't really know what it was, but something did happen. It's like one day I was going to be fun. Who knows? So,
what day was that?
just I saw you, I think. So, I don't know what happened. I think it's a good question, because actually something must have happened. And I'd like to think more about why it happened, but it just almost like something was building and building and building, and it got to a certain height, and then you had to change. And so I wanted to do something different. And I think that this worked out. I mean, it's kind of funny. It worked out really well. I'm still a bit of fun, but as a space, it worked out really very well. I think everyone who comes here has a really nice time, and it's a place where we have nice, places to sit, people sit and chat. It's a very different environment from Barrack Street.
Yeah. And then you introduced colors immediately with the curtains.
Yeah.
Very unlike FM. Oh my God, like I can't believe it. The first idea was to do colorful curtains, and I was like, what? How did this space change your relationship with color as we're sitting in front of these extremely colorful so just for anyone who doesn't know, these are gels. They are what we use in photography world. They are little samples of, we usually get little sheets of them.
Yeah.
But what inspired you in using these shapes and colors? And
Wow.
tell us a little bit about colors and shapes.
Well, I think when I feel that with photography and work and what's inside you, I feel you always have, I feel, that deep down there are all these images, all these things you want to do. And I think somewhere deep down there's some really good work that hasn't come out yet. Hopefully it will come out soon. But I think I really feel that inside me, in my core, is my future projects, my future work. And they just need to be brought out at the right time. And it's hard to do this with one hand, but...
I mean, did you know you wanted to work with these gels when you first touched them, or did they find you later?
I felt sorry for them being like stuck in here really. For years, these poor guys have been in here, unable to move. And I thought, how do we release them? How do we get out of there? They're locked in here. And we buy the big sheets and they're happy the big sheets come and they have fun. But the little guys are staying here all the time. And there was something about seeing it, because I don't really use colour much in my real, my commercial work, my other work, but I do use it quite a lot for subtle things. So I use, sometimes a shoot comes in, we're like, oh, let's get some greens or get these, and we order them from barbers on where it come from. But I've always enjoyed the fact they're rectangular little squares, and then my other passion, which has been sitting around inside my core gut forever, has been clay sculpture tools.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're here somewhere.
So with that combination, I love the fact that these are kind of cute, happy little people of colour, and the sculpture tools, which I've shot before and I always wanted to shoot more of, are kind of, they're solid. So when you light back through them, they get black. And so I have one here in my pocket, it's very sharp actually. But these are the kind of little sculpture tools. So we have all these shapes, and there's something about these shapes that I really relate to visually. They're a little bit uncomfortable, a bit organic, like little creatures. Maybe they have a personality too. So I wonder whether the personality of these guys will get on with these guys if they're released.
Yeah.
So I kind of let them all get together and make these pictures. And it sounds, because I felt it was always inside me, maybe, deep down. But coming here and building this space and doing this allowed me to bring it up, to bring it to the surface. And I think that's thanks to the curtains and colours and being a new fun me, really.
Well, not new, fun new, because looking at those images there, I can't stop to think of the reoccurring shapes in your life. They definitely have a dialogue within each other, and they keep reoccurring in your life. So is that something you're aware of, or just you're attracted to it, or do shapes find you, or?
I don't know how it quite works, but again, I think I have to give credit to my friend Tom for this observation about these shapes. He was here last week in New York, and I've known Tom a long time too. And he doesn't actually know my work very well, but he said, these shapes are a little bit like -16.
Yeah.
And then I look back at -16, and you can see, we put them on the wall so you can see them. These were done back in 1998. They're on a frozen lock in Scotland, and just ice that froze one night in a particular way. But if you look at the shapes, I seem to be drawn to these shapes. They're kind of slightly creature-oid, or like little creatures. There's something about the organicness, there's something about the amoeboid kind of shapes. So I don't know how that, I do think we have things in us that inspire us, that we keep looking for. And I think that consciously or unconsciously, things latch onto.
You just keep going back to it.
It's like, maybe it's if you're cooking, you always like certain spices or flavours. And then these flavours and visual things keep coming up. So Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know.
Kind of your interpretations of these shapes with different relationships. I mean, that's an ice pieces over there, and these are some sculpture tools. This is way more of a graphic kind of work.
I mean, obviously the ice was frozen in a lock, so nothing could be moved. I mean, it was like very cold. And the reason that so much black on those is that the ice froze overnight really, really severely, and it was suddenly the next morning it was minus 16 centigrade. So somehow in that freezing, so quickly, a lot of the ice stayed clear, but things were caught in the ice. So it was light and sunny the next day, but really cold and very windy. So the black is basically the bottom of the lock, and the light, the sun, captures the things stuck in the surface. So those obviously were predestined to be there. But it's also where you put your camera, and I think what's interesting also when we put them up this morning is that these aren't final prints and they're not the same matching exactly in the book, but I did study even slight movements of everything, and I think I've always kind of done that. When you look at my pictures now on the wall and the pictures in the new book, there are lots of subtle movements of the same thing twisted or turned or recropped or reimagined and re-envisaged. And I think that's something I've always done is you find something that you think works or you relate to or kind of gets your soul, and then you study it and in a few different angles and suddenly have a story of a bit of movement, a bit of time passing. And I think when we made the book, which I have to thank Doug Lloyd for, who's not here this evening, but he designed the book and worked with me on that book. There are lots of things where we deliberately move things and they twist and turn, and it's the same image and it's cropped tighter, it changes. And I think that's, even though it's still life, I've always liked things moving or juxtapositioning itself a little bit.
Well, those were images that were nature made, basically. I don't assume you styled that in any way. You need me there. But then here we are. There's shapes, there's gels, there's form. When does an object become a form for you?
I think these, we'll do that, yes. I think these are very flat, and so there's not much form to them in a way. But I'd like to say before we do that question, I feel composition is really important, how objects and how things relate to each other, whether they're three-dimensional or two-dimensional. And so these are a lot of fun to do because everything has a little connection or overlap, or it crosses over a circle, or the point is in the right place, so they're kind of almost quite academic in a way. So that they're always going to be just abstractions to a degree, and yet they're not abstractions because they're around the circles. Because when these poor guys are stuck in here, they get really hurt when they're burnt through here, they melt. And so all these circles have got the burnings around the circle. So even though they look really illustrative, when you look at the pictures, you'll see the photographic detail in the burning of the circle and how they've been treated. So to your question, two questions, sorry.
You can do more. You can do more. For example, like how much control? Because you have many facets in your photography. As we can see in all the books you have made, some are just moments in life, and some are extremely well put together and choreographed. When does the control end? How does your brain work in a way that you're like, oh, okay, this is it, I'm done?
I think, we carry on talking about these pictures for the moment, I think. Is that okay? Okay. I think each thing in this picture has a personality, and it's all, it's how they relate to each other. It's a story they tell together. So I think they're all gangs of things, and you're just capturing them as a gang doing something.
Before. And lately, lucky us, he started sharing some of his writings with us with these newsletters. And I came across this that I really liked. I'd like to read it to you. Everything is about relationship, even when just one object. When there are many, I liken it to people meeting at a party. Groups in conversation and maybe a few loners being less sociable. Objects can dance together, so eyes can enjoy the composition. I like that.
Oh, I wrote that.
You're not bad.
Yeah, I think even if I'm shooting like a bottle or two bottles, how they relate to each other, how they fit together, how all that happens is about relationships, and whether visual relationships. But I do sadly, to some degree, see things as having souls and being real. So when you're playing with them, I think I relate to them as being more than just a bit of metal or a bit of glass. They become, well, I don't want to get too crazy in my own, so, they become like friends.
Well, every object has feeling, right, doesn't it? Like sometimes when I weave with like certain material and it hurts my hands, and I'm like, you're not my friend. I don't want to use you. I don't. You get out of my life. And like, yeah. How? So you're an amazing seer. You know how to look. You know how to see. Throughout the years, has that taken a change, or have you started seeing differently a little bit, maybe with a new space, time passing?
I think, I think yes. I think that basically, a lot to think there, but your eyes are like, I don't know what the word is, like they evolve. And they're like, it's like going to the gym, I believe, where you get fitter and better at doing what you're doing. And I think that my eyes are more fitter now. They're more able to see better.
Not many people agree on that, but sure.
Well, I can't read anything in front of my face, but in theory, I think you do. I think also you learn what visually you like, what excites you. And again, I don't think you really have a choice. I do feel that's in you. And you just learn to, it's easier to dismiss things you don't like so much, maybe. I still get the same pleasure when I see something I really like, then basically it's pretty fantastic.
What still surprises you?
But I'm still, this goes on and on. I mean, I think there's no relief. It just goes on. I think, I don't know, I mean, because going back to my life and being young, I grew up with parents, your parents were like in a similar way. I never went to an art gallery, I never even heard of a painting or anything, I didn't know what happened with all that. And then by accident I got a camera, and then by accident I took pictures, and then by accident I made some black and white stuff, and then by accident I went to art college. And then it all happened, really. I think I always wished that I'd been 15 years old and the circus had come to town, and I'd been swept up by the circus and run away with the circus. But this was not that case. It was something that happened slowly, kind of by accident, but with intention and a lot of hard work. I think what happened is I then went to London and worked with an American still life photographer as an assistant, and he had a bookcase with art books on, and that was really exciting. And I think because he grew up in New York and in America, he taught me all about American photography, the history of American photography, all the strands, the westerns, the Stieglitzes, etc., etc., etc. And weirdly, at my rather not very good art school, they didn't know about that. So I got Robert Golden, who I work with, who I actually weirdly still talk to all the time, not weirdly, we're still really close. He taught me everything I know about art and inspired me. And he had posters and prints and books on Kandinsky and Miro, and then I learned about the Bauhaus and etc., etc. He was amazing. He taught me so much about the history of photography, about art, but also pushed me to be a really thorough photographer, and he still does it now. You know, he still looks at my stuff and has comments and words to say. I think I'd just say one thing about one episode with him, if I've got, can you do that?
Sure.
So I started working with him, and then we worked for about 2.5 years. Then he started doing a lot more commercials and moving into making tabletop commercials. And I was just doing young photography jobs. And I was lucky enough that he'd lend me his studio to use, because he wasn't using it. He was out working in big film studios. I did a job, one of my very first jobs. He came back at 9:30 at night and saw we were all cleared up, and he saw what I shot. He said, "Oh, show me what you did today." And I showed him an 810 Chrome, and he said, "So what do you think?" And I said, "Everyone likes it, and he's very happy. So, but what do you think?" And could be better maybe, but what do I know? And he walked out the door. So I worked through the night reshooting everything. And then the next morning I sent it off to the creative agency, and they loved it. And I think I learned then that it's very easy to think you've got a good result or a good shot, but actually everything you do can be better. But sadly that's annoyed me the rest of my life, because everything we do, I think you can make a better picture, you can make it better. So he's there all the time in my head. So that's one of the things he taught me.
What is next? What are you working on now?
There's always so much to do. I think this has taken a while. So I shot these in January.
A real artist never retires. So
I'm not retiring. I've got other personal projects to do and more work to do. I think I still really like taking pictures, and I'm still really inspired by seeing other art and architecture and buildings and light, and just going out for lunch and you sit outside and you see the light walk around. It's like everything all the time is interesting, and I think that's part of the eye thing, is that your eyes are always latching onto things.
Do you like collaborating when you're doing your own personal projects rather than your commercial work?
These are very personal, I think, but I do like collaboration. I think it's interesting working with other creative people, and I think that's quite important too. But these are little things, little guys sitting around on a piece of glass with their friends. So it was kind of me playing with them, really. I think I'm working on a hopefully big, interesting book on Betil steel. That's my next project, so it's very different from this. It's lots of black and white and lots of grime and lots of grunge, lots of dirty windows and very graphic panes. And
when did you take those photographs?
Because I was very lucky. I got access to Betil steel after it being closed down, and I always had this sort of desire to shoot big machinery, but not like the Beshers, because obviously the Beshers do all that steel stuff, water towers do that really well. But I think I wanted to go out with an 810 camera, a large format camera, and shoot big industrial abstract shapes, and I thought that would be interesting. And I knew an architect who knew a builder who knew the architect who was in charge of renovating the site. So I went there a long time ago, 15 years ago, and as a recce, and everything had gone. So we turned up, we got, amazingly at that time, the security said, "Come in, do what you want, wander around, do whatever you want, we will see you at the end of the day." So we spent the whole day.
One day?
Yeah.
Okay.
One day doing that, and what I took as my pictures were like lots of grimy, very graphic window panes with overgrown stuff and roofs and broken roofs. I mean, you've seen the pictures. But that's been sitting around for a long time, so that's going to come to life now. I think I have a better handle on that. I think that's what's going to happen. And also,
We can't wait.
well, 15 years has gone by so far. I'm sure we've got a little bit of time yet. But I think just to do everything beautifully, I mean, to really enjoy form and shape. And I think I'm very lucky. We've been doing really good, nice projects here in the new space. And it just, I say it goes on, I don't mean in a bad way. It goes on, and it's exciting. And every time you see, as you grow older and wiser, then maybe you see a bottle of a glass bottle differently. You twist it differently, you light it differently. It's like a never-ending time to play with light, and these are kind of different because there's no lighting anywhere really. They're just basically backlit, as you can see. And the light obviously goes through the see-through and is blocked by the solid. But I really like sculpting with light as well, like forming shapes and forms of sculpture, whether it's a little bottle or something else, I think.
Well, as fast as this conversation is, his process is definitely not this fast. He puts so much time and effort in his lighting every corner of it, just making sure the pieces are seen at its best. So, and I have 100 questions in here that I didn't maybe hit like 25 of them. But I'd like to open the room for some questions so that the conversation can continue rather than at the end. I'd like to know, because there's a lot of things we haven't discussed here, his process, his inspirations, yes, shapes, forms, but like, if anyone has a question that they would like to raise here, I would like to hear it, and maybe that will help the conversation move forward.
Does someone have a question? Who?
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Duncan. You're right.
You're right about perfection. Everything's so perfect in this world of AI. What do you think about that? I don't know if you guys talked about this already. Sorry, I was just trying to hear. Talk about AI already. Okay, guys.
I've only got the microphone by myself here, so I can start.
What can kind of give a human touch to photos these days with AI and making everything so perfect? Or you do make everything so perfect.
I think I'm quite lucky I'm old. It's my only thing on this, really. I think that's a little naive. I feel a bit like I buried my head in the sand because I like taking pictures. I like doing what I do, and I like doing my writing with real words. I'm using my hands and my eyes to make the pictures. I think. So we'll see how it works out. I mean, I feel very lucky that I do what I do. I have a way of seeing, but you're right to a degree because I do shoot things nicely, and that's almost easier to replicate, I think, in the future than shooting things badly. But we battled through CGI pretty well. We did that quite well. I think it's also inspires you to be better at what you do. I think all the time, all these years go by, and it's kind of exhausting, but I still want to do better and better and better at what I do. And AI, which I had no idea about really, I'm kind of ignoring it, which is maybe a bit silly, but I like taking pictures with a camera, and I like using film on the street, and I like that, and that's where I get my pleasure from. So while I can, I'll still do that. I think it's funny I think commercially, people want you to shoot more over the years. They want you to shoot more and more like everyone else. So in a way, the ability to light something with more interest, or to make it more individual, has been removed. Because everything has to look like every other brand. No one wants it to be, everyone's scared to be an individual, just in case they don't sell enough of something. So I think that I would like to try and do more still life and more work commercially, where it's lit as an individual picture rather than a formula, really. I think that's what I'd like to try and do. And maybe I don't make them quite as nice as they should be. So they have more volume or sculpture, or you see, it's also about where you see it from. It's how you see it, how you turn it, how you look at it. And that's me and my brain. Not that it's the best way to, not that my brain's the best or anything, but it's my brain and my eyes. And I can just come at it and look at it differently. And I think composing is nice. I think obviously these are flat, but when I compose a group of images or a group of objects, then it's how you compose them. And you can't make the composition in AI in the same way. Because you're moving things around, you move the camera, you're creating something with a group of objects and making a composition or stacking them or doing any of those things. So I think I'm rambling a bit, but if I was half my age, like 10, then I would really be quite concerned about it as a photographer and my future. But I am where I am, and it's kind of, I'm a bit older.
Hi, Robin.
Hello, Grace.
I have a question. You touched on individual or individualism. How do we keep, or how do you express yourself as an artist, like to your true authentic self? Because it seems like we're losing a bit of authenticity in art at the moment.
Good question. I kind of believe, I sort of touched on it earlier, I think all my work and how I see it and all what I want to do is inside me. I think it's already, without sounding too weird, it's predestined. And all you can do is bring up, I enjoy seeing books, I enjoy going to exhibitions, I enjoy that, I enjoy seeing beautiful things or nice art and paintings and photography. But it doesn't get into here. I enjoy it visually and mentally. I get very excited by that. But I do think, and I've gone on about this for decades with many people, I do think inside here is what I'm about. And I've never questioned that. And I think I'm lucky because I shoot really simple pictures. I mean, the simple object, I mean, it's the simple forms and they're simple looking. Obviously, it's really hard to do. But it's like a way of seeing. And to people on the outside, it may look simple or it may look straightforward. And maybe sometimes it is, maybe it is, I don't know. But whatever I do and how I see it, I think it's coming from inside me. A friend of mine, Edward Dimsdale, wrote a piece at the front of a new book. And he's kind of smart and annoying, and one of my best friends. And he said I said something smart the other day, which I liked. We were talking about, I was saying how much I think everything's inside you and how he's saying even when you go out down the street and you're shooting black and white on the street, you find a thing that's already predestined to be found. And that's why you take the picture, because you found it. And it's kind of something you've been looking for, and it then feeds you a little bit. Or it's something, it's not like you go out randomly looking for stuff, and it's something about, and maybe it's a bit too weird to say, but it's something that's in your gut already, and you're going out with your scanner, and then you find it, and then you latch onto it as something that you're missing. And I said it's maybe a little bit like inside us, we all have jigsaw pieces of jigsaw puzzles, and they're all looking for other bits to slot into. And when you see something else that slots with one of the pieces, it's kind of meant to be. So, does that make sense? That was a rambling answer, wasn't it?
Do you have any other questions?
Hi.
Hello.
So, if I heard correctly, you burn holes inside of the gels, right?
No, that's done by someone else. I wouldn't count them that way.
Okay. I was just so curious.
I think, I can't go if I saw that very off. They're basically, they're these swatches, and they put a plastic rod through it, and that holds them together. But to make the holes, I think they take a hot poker or a hot metal thing and just put it through the whole lot, and that gives these little burn marks on the, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering, like, was that something that you originally intended for, or like in your piece, or like did you want it to represent anything?
I think without those holes and without the burn, without the detail, the pictures would be nothing. I think they'd just be like colourful shapes and stuff like that. So, I think I'd have played with it and then decided it had nothing to say. I think it's only the burnt holes and the detail around the hole that makes the pictures photographs and makes them something interesting. Because without that, there's nothing, I think.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hey, Robin.
Hello.
Question, is there a difference between how you approach personal projects and commercial projects? If there is a difference, could you describe that?
I have to get stuff done in a certain time with commercial projects. That's annoying. I think, no. I think in theory, each job you do, each time, I'm very lucky. I do really nice shoots. I have lots of opportunities to make great forms and shapes. But as you know, it's something you spend your whole life building up a body of work that then allows you to get jobs you want to do. So I'm very lucky in that respect. I think because I'm lucky, every day's exciting. Sometimes the day's a little bit too stressful and annoying, but when I come in the morning, it's fun. Because you're still playing with architecture, you're still playing with sculpture, you're still deciding how much you can reveal or not reveal, how much light goes, where the light comes from. It's like a whole game, and it's like playing. And I think someone said to me, it's sort of like each day you come, it's like your first day at work. You kind of want to try and do really well, so you come in with a little bit of nervousness, and you've thought about what you're going to do. I like to get if I have objects or things to shoot, I like to have them in the studio for 3 or 4 days beforehand, and I'll hang out with them, see how we get on. So when they kind of go onto the set, and when we start working with them, we already worked out to sense how they feel, what they're made of. I had a mascara from Milk, like I ran for weeks. It was just so beautifully made, and the weight was fantastic, and the ribbing down the sides. I don't know, I just really loved it, and then I did the shoot, but we stayed friends for ages, and we'd wander around together. So I think it's nice shooting personal work or editorial. I do a lot of editorial still, and the editorial and personal work, it's nice because you're allowed to play more freely. And I think when you shoot commercially, there's sometimes limitation about how much shadow there is, how bright the picture should become, and because everything's now matching everything else, you have to, you have to illuminate the name, so it's sparkles and this sparkles and that, so it's sort of little bits maybe, more so than ever. But I like taking pictures. Shame as it is, or whatever, I don't know.
Amen.
Any other questions? Don't be shy.
Katie is preparing a question as well for later, just in case.
Hi, Robin.
Hello, Molly.
I would like to know what you would advise young artists and photographers starting out?
Um,
Also, how do you build up a team that lasts? Your team seems to last a really long time, and what's your approach on that?
So firstly, may I just say this is Molly, who wrote a beautiful piece in the book under the name Molly Gallagher about colour and relationships. So thank you, Molly, for that. What's your question about young beginners?
How would you advise young artists starting out?
I think the most important thing of any artist is to be true to yourself, to not copy, not plagiarise, to not. Obviously, you can be inspired. You can go and see, you can go and see like a Richard Serra painting or Richard, one of his drawings or something, and think that's amazing, that's brilliant. I love working with photography with imagery, but I don't want to go back to my space and do one. But I think inspiration and being inspired by people is fine, but I think more than ever people need to be individuals. Unless you have something to say or you work out what it is you want to say, and it doesn't happen straight away, it could take decades. I think without being too cliched, your whole life is basically doing what we're doing, and I'll do this till I drop dead. So it's not going to happen necessarily in year 1, year 5. And I think a lot of students come out of college and they think they can start straight away, know what they're doing, and expect things to happen quickly. And I think there's so many photographers and so many other artists now. All you can do is be true to what you're about and try and push yourself to make better work. I think thinking is important. I was talking to Betil earlier about writing and my first coffee of the morning, and how over the last 4 or 5 years I sit and write and think about imagery, about life, about form, shape, how I can make things different, what I can do differently. And I think people should do more thinking and more writing, and not just taking more pictures or painting more paintings or sculpting more sculptures. I think you have to do it, and out of that hopefully comes a way of seeing, or a way of relating to something that makes you strong for the future. But I'm glad I'm not young.
What did you write this morning with your morning coffee?
I wrote about you. I wrote about what questions will Betil asked me this morning. So yeah, that's what I wrote about. But writing, because we have to do this conversation now. And we'll do a real one soon. But it's, But by answering questions, I think about questions you might ask me, it makes you question what you do. So, and you had another question.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, we seem to work with the same teams for many years, and I wonder how do you support the teams that contribute to the photographs and keep that?
I'm really very, very lucky, actually. I'm really blessed, I think. I think I've had amazing people work for me. And one by one, Grace left, which is really sad. But then Katie came along, and then she's amazing too. And then Duncan's amazing, and Seth's amazing. I've been working with Duncan for I don't know, 10 years, 12 years, 12 years. Seth as well. I mean, I'm really very lucky. I think it's gone quite dull, and they don't really get upset. But it makes a big difference. Everyone I've worked with has been, is amazing, and we get a lot of nice comments as well about that.
I have a question.
Okay.
What was the most rewarding part of making Celebrate?
I think picking it up from the printers and realising I hadn't made a mess of it, probably. I think we all worked, as you know, so hard. It's just nice to think. There's a certain pleasure in finishing it, and I think it looks good. It came out as we planned, and everyone worked so hard on it. but I'm not, make a my best judge of it.
Well, then everyone just has to buy a copy.
Or not if you don't like it, I suppose.
Do we have any more questions in the audience? Okay. Well, please come find me around the corner. I'll be selling copies of Celebrate alongside Robin's other publications.
And you get drinks too. You have drinks now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Robin. You're an inspiration at all times.